So I want to share with you a message today, a message titled, The God of Compassion. The God of Compassion. And I want you to see through this message today the way God actually responds in your time of trouble, in your moments of rebellion. Come on, we've all had those moments of rebellion. Let's be real. And it ain't just after I got saved, I stopped rebellion. No, some of us, we're still rebelling, even though we said yes to Jesus. I'll be the first one in line to say it, because some of the things I may not say it out of my mouth, but if I'm out, especially here in Sacramento, if I'm somewhere and I'm people watching, I may sit on a bench downtown in Sacramento, and the thoughts that are going through my mind are truly in rebellion to what God wants me to say. Because the stuff you see, come on, in this city. But I want you to just see how God responds. And how God responds is how we should be responding to other people's rebellion. And so I want to give you this message today from an Old Testament perspective. Because in the Old Testament, we see so many times how it's describing God as showing wrath and anger and fire and judgment on the world. That's what we see in the Old Testament. So if we looked at the Old Testament and how God responds to our rebellion, we think, oh, I don't want no part of that. I don't want to feel no wrath. I don't want to feel the fire. I don't want to be turned into a pillar of salt. I don't want to be destroyed. I don't want my cities to be burned just because I kind of stepped out of line. But that's a far cry for how God really is. And I think we put so much emphasis on the wrath and the judgment, we forget how he wanted to respond initially before he had to get to the place of wrath and judgment. And so I believe in Scripture today, as we journey through the Old Testament, you're going to see just how God responds and how truly he is a God of compassion. And so I want to start today. We're going to talk about Moses. We're going to talk about Moses, and we're going to go to the book of Numbers. Numbers chapter 11, and we're going to start from the beginning at verse 1, and we're just going to journey through this chapter for a little while. And it says, starting in verse 1, Numbers chapter 11, verse 1, it says, and the people complained. You see how it started? We're already starting off wrong right here. So basically, let me give you a little bit of a backstory. So we all know the story of the Exodus, how God anointed and charged Moses to freeing the children of Israel from being under the enslavement of the Egyptians. And so they were free. They had seen miracle signs and wonders. The day that they were free and they flee from Egypt, God parted the sea. So on day one, they saw the power of God. On day one, they said, okay, where we're going, this is going to be awesome. If this is just day one, you're walking in, let's go. But all of a sudden, they got a little further on their journey. You're walking in the wilderness. You're walking through the desert. It's hot. You're tired. And even though God had supplied their needs day by day, he said, each day you will wake up to manna. It will fall fresh from heaven. You will have the sustenance that you need to continue through the day. It wasn't enough for the people. Come on. And they started to, as we see right here in Numbers, they started to complain. It wasn't complaining to God. They went to Moses because you're the one who brought us here. This is your fault, Moses. And it says in Numbers chapter 11, verse 1 says, and the people complained in hearing of the Lord about their misfortunes. And when the Lord heard it, his anger was kindled. And the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some outlying parts of the camp. Then the people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So the name of that place was called Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burned among them. Now, anywhere, I'm going to stop right here for just a moment. Anywhere in the Old Testament where there's a reference to God and fire, it's a sign of a divine activity happening here. And so this divine activity is one of two things. The fire either represents blessing or represents judgment. We see blessing when he first called Moses, and we see the burning bush that wasn't consumed by the fire, but still yet there was a fire. And that represented the Spirit of God is here with you, Moses. That's the blessing. But we also see it in other times. We see it in Sodom and Gomorrah. We see it when he right here when he said, "I'm gonna set fire of this city because I'm tired of y'all." And this wasn't the first time. If we look throughout the book of Exodus, so many times the people were complaining. That's why they were walking in the wilderness for so long, because God knew that I cannot take you to the promised land with this mindset that you have. I got to get this mindset out of you. So this wilderness that you're going through, it's really a filtering process. Some of y'all won't make it. Some of y'all don't have the mind to get into the promised land. So I need to weed out some of the folks. So yeah, you're going to wander for a little while, but I assure you that you will get there. But they still complain. Miracle after miracle. Being chased by the Egyptians, winning battle after battle, but still they complain. And so God made a promise. And the people continue to complain. So in other words, God was saying, children of Israel, I made a promise to you to deliver you into the land of milk and honey, a promised land that you would just grow, your generations will flourish. But right about now, I'm sick of y'all.
Right.
You ever had a child who can complain, just constantly complain? You're at Disneyland. You done took your kids and spent $5,000 taking them to Disneyland. You walking around what's supposed to be the happiest place on earth, but you are far from happy. Because you got this child behind you complaining. I want this. I want that. I want this. I want that. I don't want to ride this. I want to ride that. And you go through the whole day. All you want to do is get back to the hotel and put this child to bed. And they just complaining, and it gets to a point, I saw it with my own two eyes. It gets to a point to where little Billy, mommy is just tired. I am sick of you. We've been there. Been there 3 times with ours. How many times we done drove to LA? Don't make me pull over this car because I'm about sick of y'all. We came so close to pulling over the car before it was in the middle of the desert. Because we're about sick of these kids. Ray, you feel me, huh? But we've been there. And so God is at that point. I'm about sick of my kids. I done brought them out of slavery. I done parted seas for you. I done won battles even though you were outnumbered, and now you still want to complain about what you don't have and what you used to have. I'm about sick of y'all. So you know what I'm going to do? Burn it down. Because I gave you an opportunity. Parents, we always do this. We give you a warning. We give you, all right now. I done told you. Number 2, okay, didn't I say? Okay, now I'm about sick of you. we do this. And so God was at that point. And now let's go down to verse 4. It says, now the rabble was among them and had a strong craving. What's the rabble? The rabble were non-Israelites, non-chosen people. These were nosy folks. You're not one of the chosen, but here you are walking along with us, causing dissension. These are the people walking along with. I told you you were better off in Egypt. What you eating? Manna. You had steak and eggs for breakfast in Egypt. This is who the rabble was. This is where we get the phrase rabble rousers. Come on, because we know what rabble rousers are. These are people who just got a lot to say and ain't doing nothing. They just talking, just getting people riled up, amped up, causing division among the community. And it says, now the rabble was among them, and they had a strong craving. And it says, and the people of Israel also wept again and said, oh, that we had meat to eat. Remember Listen to this. Remember the fish we ate in Egypt? That cost nothing. The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic, they had some good stuff, didn't they? Verse 6 says, but now our strength is dried up. And there is nothing at all but this manna to look at. They were fed up. They didn't want to eat it. They said, all we got is manna to look at because I ain't eating it. They were done. But I want to give you this key point today. Complaining is an act of rebellion against God. Your complaining is an act of rebellion against God. I know this is not something we want to hear because we all have our moments where we complain. But your complaining is an act of rebellion against God because things had gotten a little difficult. They're tired. They're hungry. And they had enough of eating this manna. And they wanted to start reminiscing about what they had in Egypt. Man, we had a free fish fry every day in Egypt. Remember that? We had fruit. We had fresh vegetables. We had it good in Egypt, didn't we? But now here we are out in this hot desert. We're tired and hungry, and we've just been walking and on this journey for 40 years. What? We were better off in Egypt, weren't we? Don't you think? We had it real good. But did you forget, children of Israel, that you were also slaves in Egypt? Did you forget, children of Israel, that someone was telling you when to go to bed and when to get up? That you were working from sun up to sundown, and any simple mistake you made, you were whipped and beaten. And when you got to a certain age and where your body just couldn't work anymore, they would kill you because they wouldn't allow you to grow old. Yeah. Did you forget that, children of Israel, that you were slaves in Egypt? Did you really have it so good? And see, that's one of the biggest tricks of the enemy. That's right. As you walk with God, as you start to get closer to your destiny. Ooh, I could see the promised land. It's not too far away. It's still a little bit of a day's journey from here, but I believe that the promised land is on the way. And that's when the enemy starts to become a little rabble in your ear. Come a little rabble in your telling you what you used to have. Yeah, things have gotten a little difficult. Yeah, my budget is a little bit tight this month. Yeah, things in my body seem to be working the way they. You know what? You start hearing that voice. Yeah, things were a little bit easier, weren't they, back in the day? They were a little bit easier before you knew Jesus. You do whatever you wanted to do. You could eat whatever you wanted to. You could drink whatever you wanted to do. This is the devil's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Before you get to the promised land, before you see the blessings, before you experience all that God has for you, I want to remind you, while things are difficult, that you had it easier then. And see, that goes for us as well. We're about to enter into a new season in our lives, and all of a sudden he wants to remind us of last year's season. You single right now, but remember that one you used to call on, and they used to answer the phone any time of day and night, and be right there for. Yeah, her number is still in your cell phone. Why don't you give her a call? That's the enemy's trick. There's a reason you're not with her. There's a reason you're not with him. But that's the trick of the enemy. I did have it better back then. Being with someone for a night is better than being alone every night. We start thinking like that. Or you know what? I know you've been asking God for this new job, but you got it good right here. You've been here for 20 years. But that next job is going to be a little bit more challenging for you. You got to start all over. But you know what? That next job is also your new season. That next job is maybe your next biggest promotion. That next job may come with a corner office. That next job may come with more money, more finances, more freedom. But the enemy wants to remind you to keep you bound to your past. Yeah. And God knew the easiest part. The easy part. I can get these children out of Egypt. That's easy. But just by my word alone, I could say, Egypt be gone. And my children are free. That was easy. But he also knew the hard part was getting the Egypt out of them. Egypt had gone from a place to where it was once a physical place, but now that they have fled from Egypt, now Egypt is in here. And that's where we get the term, the slave mentality. And I believe that nowadays some people are still struggling from what their ancestors went through. They're still struggling to come out of their Egypt, coming out of slave mentality, coming out of dysfunction, because we have not been able to get the Egypt out of us. And God knew that this was going to be the hard part. So I need them to wander for a while, because I got to get this Egypt out of them. Because what I have for them, you can't bring the mess. Come on, God ain't going to bless no mess. That's a fact right now. He's not going to bless mess. So before he bless, he's going to remove the mess. Come on. That's good right there. Write that one down. Before he bless, he's going to remove the mess. So what does our Egypt look like? What does Egypt look like to us today? God may have blessed you to leave a job and that you hated. Can't stand this job. So ready to leave, ready to go, but now he's brought you into a new job, but now you're bringing that same attitude from the old job into the new job. That's what Egypt looks like. The pain of a past relationship that affected you so much that you bring your lack of trust, that unforgiveness into the new relationship. That's what Egypt looks like. The last church you attended hurt you, or that mega church pastor that you watch online every Sunday did something dishonorable. And now that's your excuse to why you can't commit to another church. That's your excuse of why you don't go to church, even though there's a church called Life Force Church that's willing to love on you, just give you a life-giving experience, is trying to help you grow. But because of what happened to the past and you're attached to that, and you haven't got Egypt out of here, you can't experience the land of milk and honey. So I want to get you to a point, Life Words family, anyone who will watch this later online, to come out of your Egypt. We've all come from a place of pain. We've all experienced hurt and trauma. And I'm going to do a series later, really soon, on trauma and how that affects us. But we've all experienced some level of trauma in our life. But the fact that we cannot carry the trauma into a promised land, we cannot carry the trauma into the blessing. We have to spend some time in our wilderness. We have to spend some time wandering in order for God to filter the mess, the Egypt, out of us. And so as he was in this process of getting Egypt out of them, he had got them out of Egypt, and now he's getting Egypt out of them. Now we see the God of compassion show up. If we move down in the same chapter in Numbers to verse 10, it says here, it says, Moses heard the people weeping throughout their clans, everyone at the door of his tent. They just knocking on his door. Moses, help us out. And the anger of the Lord blazed hotly. God is still tired of his kids. The anger of the Lord blazed hotly, and Moses was displeased. Why was Moses displeased? Because his people getting him in trouble. They knocking on his door, and Moses like, would y'all be quiet? Y'all gonna get me in trouble. I'm the one who got to answer to God for this. Y'all stop complaining. Hush. And he said Moses was displeased. Verse 11, Moses said to the Lord, why have you dealt with your servant? Why have you dealt ill with your servant? And why have I not found favor in your sight, that you lay the burden on all this people on me? Verse 12 says, did I conceive all these people? I know that's right, Moses. I know that's right. He said, did I give them birth? That you should say to me, carry them in your bosom, and as a nurse carries a nursing child to the land that you swore to give their fathers. Verse 13, where am I to get meat to give to all these people? For they weep before me and say, give us meat that we may eat. Verse 14, I'm not able to carry this people alone. The burden is too heavy for me. And listen to what he said in verse 15. If you will treat me like this, kill me at once. If I find favor in your sight, that I may not see my wretchedness. You see, right here in his utter desperation, Moses, who we call a hero of the faith, expressed a behavior, and my psychology folks here may have heard of this before. He expressed a behavior that psychologists call suicidal ideation, which basically means I'm thinking about dying. So this is where he is now, from being the one that God chose to free the children of Israel to now being at that point. I'm thinking about dying. I'm thinking about giving up. Lord, just kill me now, because I'm sick of just hearing about all these complaints and about all this suffering. I'm just done. And I'm sure most of us who come from a religious background, if a leader like Moses, if a leader like a pastor or apostle, preacher, whoever, if a leader start expressing these same thoughts about dying, a lot of theology would be thrown their way. Well, you know what the word says about suicide. You know what the word says, that thou shalt not kill. You know what the God. This is not of God to have these type of thoughts. That's what would be our response. But listen to how God responded. That's not how God responded. He responded and did something quite different. How he didn't even address Moses' suicidal ideation. Like those thoughts you have, I'm not even going to address that. He didn't even bother with that. He didn't even rebuke Moses for thinking the way he thought. He could have showed his wrath and his rage. He didn't do that. He didn't rebuke him for expressing such anger toward him. God's first response was this. Look at verse 16. God's first response was this. Then the Lord said to Moses, gather for me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be elders of the people and officers over them, and bring them to the tent of meeting, and let them take their stand there with you. And I will come down and talk with you there. And I will take some of the spirit that is on you and put it on them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with you, so that you may not bear it yourself alone. Does that sound like a God of wrath? Does that sound like a God of anger? Does that sound like a God of judgment? Another key point I want to give you, God responds to the cause of the stress, not the symptom that arises from it. He's not going to be concerned about these temporary thoughts in your head about ending things, about giving up. God he's going to respond to the cause of the stress, not the symptom that arises because of the stress. You see, Life Force family, God's heart towards people who are at the end of their rope is not judgment. It's not punishment. It's tenderness. It's compassion and provision. And look how he provides in the next verse, in verse 18. He said, and say to the people, consecrate yourselves for tomorrow, and you shall eat meat. For you have wept in the hearing of the Lord, saying, who will give us meat to eat? For it was better for us in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you meat, and you shall eat. Look at verse 19. You shall not just eat one day, or 2 days, or 5 days, or 20 days, or 10 days, or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils. Okay, God, that's kind of gross. And becomes loathsome to you. God was saying, I'm going to bless you so much that you're getting sick of me. Come on, I don't know about you. I want that kind of blessing. Lord, I've had enough. I'm full now. God said, I'm going to give you, this is where that El Shaddai comes in, the God of more than enough. I'm about to bless you, and I'm about to bless you with more than enough. You've been crying and complaining. Well, watch how I'll respond. I'm not going to respond with wrath and judgment. I'm going to give you an opportunity to come into me. I'm going to bless you with tenderness and kindness and compassion. I'm going to give you more than enough. And it continues and becomes loathsome to you because you have rejected the Lord who is among you. God said, I'm with you. I've been with you the whole time. And you have wept before him, saying, why did we come out of Egypt? Verse 21. But Moses said, the people among who I am number 600,000 on foot. And you have said, I will give them meat that they may eat a whole month. Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them and be enough for them? Or shall all the fish in the sea be gathered together for them and be enough for them? And the Lord says to Moses, is the Lord's hand shortened? Come on, I need you to get that. So here's Moses complaining. Come on. It's 600,000 of us, God. We don't have enough sheep. We don't have enough cows. We don't have enough pigs. We don't have enough to feed all these people. We could be fishing for weeks upon weeks and it still won't be enough for everybody here. How are we supposed to feed all these people? How am I? See, he was all about him. How am I supposed to feed all these people? And God's response was, is my hand shortened that I can't perform a miracle? He said, is the Lord's hand shortened? Now you will see whether my word will come true for you or not. LifeWorks family, is the Lord's hand shortened over your life? Is the Lord's hand shortened over what he has promised to you? That destiny that he's called you into, that vision that he's given you for a greater tomorrow. Is the Lord's hand shortened that he won't give it to you? Is the Lord doing this? The Lord ain't walking around with dinosaur hands. The Lord's hand is reaching out to you. And then he says, now I want you to get ready. LifeWorks family, get ready and see. Get ready because you're about to see whether or not his word will come true for you. The Lord's hand is not shortened for you. And then we see the same situation happen again. I want to go to it very quickly in 1 Kings. We see it happen again in 1 Kings chapter 19. Starting at verse 1, it says, Ahab told Jezebel that all that Elijah had done. See, God had called Elijah not just to be a prophet, but also to speak truth. Yeah. Speak truth to people who weren't listening. And Ahab and Jezebel were at the top of the list. I'm going to tell you some truths about yourself. I'm going to tell you some things that you really need to be doing that you're not doing, and how God is going to bring judgment on you. And so now Ahab, Jezebel mainly, now she's all in her spirit. She's all in her flesh spirit. I need to bring down this man. So I'm going to talk my husband into bringing down this man. He cannot spread this truth in this land any longer. So it says Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. Verse 2, then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, so may the gods do to me and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. So basically Jezebel said, look, may they kill me if I don't kill you first. So it's time for you to go, Elijah. Then it said, verse 3, then he was afraid. And he arose and ran for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah. Now, I talked about this in the message before. He ran to a place which was in the land of Judah. What does Judah mean? Praise. He ran into a land, come on, y'all. He ran into a land of praise. He ran into a community where people were worshiping constantly. He ran into a community where people knew that the solution to my problem is to give it to God. The solution to my anguish and my stress in my life is to start worshiping God in spite of the circumstances around. I'm running to praise. I'm not running from it. So Elijah knew this. He said, and left his servant there, but he himself went a day's journey. He went even further into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he asked that he might die. Come on, Elijah, didn't you learn anything from your ancestor Moses? Didn't you learn anything? He said, and he asked that he might die, saying, it is enough now. O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. So here's Elijah, experienced the same suicidal ideation as Moses. Another hero of the faith, called by God to do miraculous things, and at a point now of giving up. And here's your last key point today. If God called you to it, he will bring you through it. If God called you to it, he's going to bring you through it. Let's continue in verse 5. He said, and he lay down and slept under a broom tree. And behold, an angel touched him and said to him, arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was at his head a cake baked on the hot stones and a jar of water. And he ate and drank and lay down again. He got that itis, y'all. He was full. He was good. And he laid back down and ate. And it's in verse 7, and the angel of the Lord came again a second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you. And he arose and ate and drank and went into the strength of that food for 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. See, just like he did with Moses, God didn't respond to Elijah's rebellion. Elijah, I hear you complaining. Elijah, I hear your suicidal ideation. I hear that you're thinking about giving up. I hear that you're thinking about dying. I'm not going to even address that. Just like I didn't with Moses, I'm not going to even address that. I'm not going to give you my rage, even though I could. Because you're rebelling against me, I could just give you wrath and judgment right now, but instead I'm going to respond with tenderness, because I'm going to respond and address the cause of the pain, not the symptoms that arise from it. And as in conclusion today, Life Force family, you have a God in heaven that is always willing to respond to you with tenderness. He's not willing, his first response is never wrath and judgment. His first response to you is always tenderness, compassion. And in times of stress and in times of worry, many of us turn to the same place in the Bible when we're stressed out, when we're worrying, when we're just at the end of our ropes. We all turn to that same spot in the Bible, Psalm 23. Don't we? Because it gives us some assurance when we read this. It kind of motivates us to continue. But I hope after we read it right now, after hearing this message today, I hope these words hit a little bit different for you. So let's go now to Psalm 23. And we're going to break it down, and then we're going to be done. Psalm 23 says, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside still waters. What are green pastures? Green pastures represented a place where sheep had everything that they needed to survive. We can go right now to Northern Thomas Regional Park, and all we see right now is sheep all throughout the field because there's a lot of green pastures. Right. They got everything that they need. And then there's a little lake there, still waters. Everything that I need is right here and available. So when he says, I'm making you lie down in the space that has everything that you need, you can rest comfortably. And the still waters represented a place of peace and safety. You see, if waters are trouble, we know that there's something in the water. If you get too close to the edge and you see some bubbles happening, there's something underneath that water, and it probably ain't good. But God said, I'm going to lead you beside still waters. Because it's a place of peace for you. This is a place of safety for you. Then it continues in verse 3. It says, and then he restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Do you hear the tenderness right there? Do you hear the tenderness of God? He is a restorer, someone who loves you enough to respond to your rebellion with compassion, even in times of compassion. And the author here, David, we know that he had some moments of rebellion, but even in those moments, David is saying he's restoring my soul. Even though I rebel, he's restoring me. Let's continue in verse 4. It says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, even though I may walk through a time of crisis, even though I may walk through some time of turmoil, even though I may walk through some time of worry, even though I may walk through some times where I'm just broken, even though I may walk through some time where my finances are not lining up, even though I walk through some times where I even have some suicidal ideations where I'm just thinking about giving up, even in those times, it says I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod and the staff is a tool, y'all, that shepherds, they use it to guide the sheep. When one sheep goes astray, the shepherd takes the staff, and it has a hook on it. We've all seen the picture. It has that hook on it. I'm just going to grab you by the leg and bring you back into the fold. Because you're going too far off, so I'm going to just take my staff and just bring you back into, come on. Some of us, you've been away from the church too long. Come on. I need this staff to just bring you back into the community. I need you to bring you back to where there's safety. I need you to bring you back to where there's love. I want to bring you back to a place where there's peace, but I need my staff in order to do that. That's what God is doing when he says your rod and your staff is with me. And we misinterpret the rod as a tool of discipline. Come on, spare the rod, spoil the child. We done heard that before. Spare the rod, spoil the child. But I want to let you know that has nothing to do with beating your kids. Come on. That when the word says spare the rod, spoil the child, it has nothing to do with beating your kids. The rod was used as a tool to point people in the right direction. You see, when sheep start moving the wrong way or when they didn't know where to go, they were looking for the rod. And all the shepherd had to do was say, hey, this way. Never beating them, never abusing them, but just, hey, this way. This rod is keeping you from going out of bounds. And so when we look at it, all we see is the rod. Oh, let me go outside and get a switch. But the rod was actually a guide to put you in the right direction. And my started this morning by saying she was praising me and Pastor Tasha for using the time that we had with Monet to make sure that we're guiding her in the right direction, giving her the right words today, giving her a place to where her spirit can thrive. And that's what we should be doing with our children. The rod isn't a weapon. It is a tool to guide them. So let's get some understanding about what it talks about with the rod. And then it continues in verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. I got more than I need. He did this with Elijah. I'm gonna give you so much. You're gonna eat so much. You're gonna go lay down, and then I'm gonna send an angel to wake you up so you can eat some more. Because I know what's in store for you. I know what's on the road ahead. The angel told him, look, the journey is too much if you don't eat. So eat until your heart's content. Eat until you're full. He did it with Moses and the children of Israel. Eat until it comes out of your nostrils. Continue to eat up. So I'm going to provide. I'm going to give you more than enough. And then my favorite part, verse 6. Surely. I love that it starts with that word. Surely. That means I guarantee it. See, you could take this to the bank with you. Surely. Goodness. Come on. Surely goodness and mercy, tenderness, kindness, compassion, truth, grace, love, everything that you need, surely it's yours. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. Go where you want to, Life First family. Walk where you want to. Go into places that you've never been before. Travel this world because surely grace and mercy is going to follow you. I don't care what. You can send me to South Sac. You can send me to Natomas. You can send me to up to Roseville. You can send me wherever because I know surely grace and mercy is going to follow me. You can send me into the darkest place of the city because I know surely grace and mercy is there with me, following me all the days of my life. And I shall dwell. I'm going to get comfortable right here. I'm going to live here forever. Ever. I'm going to dwell in this place. Because everything that I need is found under the umbrella, the spiritual umbrella of my Father in heaven.
That's right.
Your Father in heaven, Life First family, your Father in heaven is madly in love with you. Madly in love with you. He's not a God of wrath. He's not a God of judgment. That's all a last resort for him. But his first response is, I love you enough to provide for you. Yes. Even in your moment of rebellion. I love you enough to be compassionate. Even in your rebellion. His first response is never wrath. But it's always tenderness, mercy, and compassion. Do you receive that today? Do you receive his tenderness? Do you receive his mercy? Do you receive his compassion? See, you got to understand what that word means, compassion. The God of compassion. It means he has a heart for you. No matter what it is that you're experiencing, no matter the pain that you feel, God said, I feel that. And my heart breaks for yours. I'm in pain with you. And so if I know that you're experiencing pain, I'm going to do what I can to bring you from that place of pain, but I'm not going to address the symptom. See, we're going to dig down and find out what's the root of the problem. What is really going on? And once we find out what's the cause of the problem. And see, I learned that while I was taking my course to become a certified life coach. It's not all about addressing the problem. It's about finding the why behind the what. You see, if we just address the problem, that's just like putting icing on a nasty cake. It's going to be sweet, but it's going to be bitter underneath. God said, I want to get to the root of the problem, so everything that you encounter is nothing but sweetness into your mouth. That's what the land of milk and honey was all about. I need to get this Egypt out of you, this bitterness, this untrusting, this untrusting spirit. I need to get all that out of you so that you can truly embrace all that I have for you. Receive his grace today. Receive his tenderness and his mercy. Let's pray right now. Father in heaven, we come right now.